Roby Price, and welcome to my workshop.
Well, I just got back from the hardware store. I've got some denatured alcohol and I got my duds on. That means only one thing. We're going to be applying some finish and some dye. So let's get on inside and get started. I'll see you there.
Let's build a new router table. Part 6, time to finish.
Well, I've spent an hour or two getting this thing disassembled, at least as far as I can disassemble it, and that's to make it easier to apply the finish. Now, finish is going to be in two stages. The first stage is the dye. Now, this is denatured alcohol, and these are some of my dyes. Actually, this is the remnants of the dye that I used on the Bombay box. Now, I have cut it in half, but I've added some golden oak, so it's going to be a little bit warmer and it's not going to be nearly as dark, and I'm fine with that. I just want to put some color on this piece and I want to experiment a little bit. This is how you learn, and on shop furniture, that's a perfect place to learn. Now we're going to start spraying this piece right here, and we're only going to focus on those areas you can see. For instance, the trim, the outriggers, and the inside of the router cabinet, but we're not going to be focusing on the pockets for the drawers, because nobody's going to see them. As a matter of fact, as far as the drawer is concerned, I'm going to be focusing on the face. I don't necessarily care about the inside or the sides themselves. So it's really what we can see, and that's to get the most out of our finish. So I've got things set up outside. We are going to apply this with the Erlex. We're going to be spraying it, and that's the reason for going outside with this. So let's get the garage door up and let's get spraying. There's really not a whole lot to this. We will experiment with back.
I might say this is like watching paint dry, but it's probably a little worse than that. There is a reason that I'm taking my time here showing you this. Tools required to apply a finish this way are really cheaper than just about anything else I've got in the shop. I did not spend a lot of money on that unit, and it is a good one. If you'll take the time to master this technique, it will serve you well. You can take an ordinarily not so great piece of furniture with a great finish and turn it into a real prize. So sit back and relax and try to take it in, and understand that it is really as simple as it looks. It just takes a bit of practice. And if you fall asleep, I won't be offended. Just let it play all the way through, and then watch it again, and let that one play all the way through too.
I think that'll do it. Let it dry. Looks a little splotchy, but I think it'll be okay. It is pine. For this, all I care about is that, and I really don't care about that much anyway.
The nozzle has a direction. It's got two arms that force air out that actually make the shape of the spray in more of a vertical or a horizontal position. When I'm going up and down, I have a horizontal spray. When I'm going side to side, it is vertical, and that is to spread things out a bit. One of the things that I've noticed while editing this video is that the finish isn't quite as uniform as I thought it was when I was applying it, or even after the fact. The sunlight being so bright and me being too close to the piece was probably part of that. You'll be amazed at what a second coat will do for evening out the color. You should always count on doing that. Make sure that you have enough dye to hit it twice. The drawers are that simple, so I'll tell you what, I'll alleviate you of the responsibility of watching the rest of them. Let's cut to the next scene.
All right, this is starting to look pretty good. Now, it's a little blotchy, and it's supposed to be. There's a lot of curl in this, and some of it came out good, some of it didn't. But I've got a little bit left in the can, so I'm gonna even up the front here just a little bit, and that'll finish us up. It is so dry out here. Relative humidity is running in 24–25%. So this stuff is flashing off really fast. So this won't take long to dry. As a matter of fact, I'll probably get this last coat on and that'll be it. And we can probably march right in to finish. Let me get my gun and we'll give it a shot.
There was a surprisingly small amount of dye in the can, but it went a long way toward evening things out. That's typical of dye. Another thing I like about dye is that the second coat will really make the color rich, but it never muddies the grain of the wood. That's one thing that you can't say about a stain. I am out. It's time to clean up the gun.
As I take the drawers out, I'm taking this rag here, paper towel actually, and I'm just touching the edge here. And that does a really good job. That way when you pull the drawer out, it's not just stark white on these surfaces. Well, I've got a wipe-on finish here, and I'm going to wipe it on. And We'll just start it on that side over there and just start moving around the piece till we finish. We are going to wipe on both sides because I don't want there to be a differential moisture content in either side of the board. That can cause some warping. Although 90% of this is plywood, still it's a good practice. I'm also not going to wipe on the tops of the runners. We'll put a coat of wax on those so they'll slide real nice. After we finish this piece, we'll just move on to the other parts until we're finished. And after that, we'll give it a light sand and put on another coat. I'm not being too careful with this, primarily because it's not a big deal. This is shop furniture, so we are just going to go after it a little at a time.
There is a reason I'm not taking quite as much time with this finish as I would a piece of furniture that was for sale or to go in the living room. I'm attempting to gauge the level of effort with the outcome. At the end of the day, I have concluded that the level of effort and the outcome are not equal. I'll let you be the judge, but the finish on this project at the end of this video, it turned out great. Does that mean I won't take time in the future on those prized pieces? No. It just means I'm not going to worry about it quite as much. And you shouldn't either. I think it's time to move on to the next scene. It's a lot more of the same.
I've got the top on my wheels that I'm starting to assemble. Sealer coat is on, and now we're looking at the top coats that will go on. And I see no reason not to assemble part of this. And the reason is that I'm not putting a top coat on unexposed surfaces. I want the top coat on wear surfaces. Product has been sealed. We do not have differential moisture between either side of the board right now, so I'm not worried about any future warping. Not that I was worried that much to begin with. So wheels are going back on. I'm going to put the drawers in. I'm not going to put the door on because I want to get behind the hinges and get that done right. I'm not going to put this faceplate on either. I'll do those separately, but there's no reason not to put the drawers and the wheels on and the back because those are the surfaces that are readily available, and it helps me clear out some of my shop too. So let's get this thing put back together to the point that we are, and then we'll start applying finish. This is probably not the way the manufacturer would ask you to do this, but it is what it is. I'm going to take each surface and wipe it down. And keeping in mind, I am interested in exposed surfaces, but just keeping a nice sheen on it. And we'll push that back in and pull the next one out. This is going to take a while. Second coat, second day, and I have taken all the drawers out. I have taken the time to rub it down with a green Scotch-Brite to get rid of all the nibs. We're getting ready to go back with the second coat. I'll do the sides, the back, and all exposed faces. I'm not going inside the cabinet. It's sealed. I don't have to worry about differential moisture. We'll probably go back with a third coat on surfaces such as these that get a lot of wear, especially these rubs up front, and probably the drawer fronts because I kind of want a little bit more sheen on those, and those will get touched and those will get bumped. So let's get started on the finish. I've got my general finishes ready to go, and it just takes a little bit of time, and this one will be on the side while we start something else in the shop.
You see me put the rag in the finish and leave it there. What I'm trying to do is saturate the rag. When you're finishing a piece, the first time that you apply a finish with a fresh rag, you stand a chance of leaving a little bit of a dry edge or streaking it. It's not a problem as you move forward because every time you put the rag in the finish, it just helps to saturate it. By the time you're done, you can wring it out. But the first bits, it's good to have the rag really, really wet. It'll serve you better. I don't know if you can see this green pop, but boy, I tell you, it's very gratifying. All the little things you do to clean it up and make sure things are just right, they add up. They make a difference. Well, I think you've probably figured it out. I'm just showing off.
I'm taking some time to sand this down with 220, and the reason that I'm not as worried about it at this point is I've got 2 coats on the surfaces that I'm sanding. I'm not worried about burn through. Got a little material here to work with. So the areas that will get the 3rd coat are drawer surfaces and rub strips, things of this nature. As far as the backs are concerned and the sides, I'm going to leave those alone. Not as concerned about that. They're not going to get the kind of traffic that these surfaces will. So we'll go ahead and take it down with 220, and again, not worried about burn through, but I want to get a little bit of an etch on this because you need that for the finish to lock tight. And that'll about do it for the finish. We'll summarize this thing up after it dries and I get all the hardware on it, and we'll put this thing to work. A little harder than I wanted, but boy, I tell you what, when it's down, it's solid. Well, we're done. Finish came out great. I tell you what, that junk maple turns out real nice. Now, when I say junk maple, this maple was originally designated for secondaries. That's soft maple that I buy in bulk, I mill up, and they become drawer sides and drawer bottoms, things that you generally don't see. Well, about 1 out of every 5 of those I've been buying lately has been curly. So I save those boards, and I save them for projects like this one. And I experiment a bit. This is the first time I've had this kind of a honeyish brown on maple, and I think it came out great. I've got plenty of room here, drawer storage, for all sorts of things. This is a big drawer. My router bits, plenty of room for there too. In fact, all my router bits are stored here, and don't need any extra holes. But I may change that in the future. You can always buy another router bit. I got my cast iron top on and it's solid. Lift in place. Dust collection. I've tried that out and it does work. It works quite well. I'm set up right now for a standard fence, but if I want to, the outrigger on the back is there for the Incra fence, and the dust collection will actually rotate to the side with a smaller extension, and we can put the Incra fence on and still have our dust collection. So this has turned out to be a good project. And it's one I think you can build at this point because you've seen all the steps. I encourage you to do so. So what are we doing next time? Next time we're starting a series on a portable miter saw station. That project is specifically to go into the new room upstairs. That's the one where I put the window casings in, and starting to finish out the sides and maybe put in some drawer storage in those roof areas. You'll see what I'm talking about when you join me next time in Roby's workshop.